Oh no, he left! We had this whole plan.
Awesome.
Oh, it was going to be so good. I can't believe that. Hello, everyone.
Do it over.
Okay, hang on. Rewind. Pretend the broadcast just started, okay?
Mulligan.
Okay.
It's Thursday, September 22nd, 2016, and you're listening to episode 58 of Roll Up and Die. Who talks first? I talk first? You talk first?
So,
now you gotta slowly fade out, and then I'll start talking about how my Audacity's working.
okay, mine is too.
For the people at home listening to this live episode of Roll Up and Die, that is actually how we record the music that leads up into the episode every single week, but we usually have the recording studio.
That's us, man.
Yeah,
this is us live. We have a little bit of lag here, but you got to trust us. Matt has an excellent distortion filter on his vocal cords.
Yeah, it's actually in my throat. It's like a Shadowrun type biomechanical augmentation that I have in my throat.
You got it at Hot Topic.
Yeah, absolutely. They also have them at Spencer's Gifts.
The old man.
Spencer's Gifts is always right next to Hot Topic. I'm sorry, I heard two of you, Matt, and then I realized that you and the YouTube was talking.
Oh.
You in the YouTube. I am so close to, you can, see my whole face. Look how close I am to the screen.
I mean, ideally, you see the whole face during a video like this.
I doubt that's the case. Ideally, dude, podcast face as hell.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. So how are you guys doing on this live episode of Roll Up and Die?
I'm feeling pretty live.
I'm feeling alive, man. I'm feeling so live right now.
So for the very first time?
Yeah, exactly.
You think you could fly?
I think I can fly. Exactly.
Did you not mean to sing?
I didn't.
You said them perfectly.
I didn't mean to say that.
Okay, good. Welcome, everybody. Thank you for joining us for this live episode of the Roll Up and Die podcast. This is actually episode 58. I am, it looks like we're all in our normal places, but I am in a different place than you might usually see me. I'm not sure I've ever broadcasted from in here, but today we are talking about ending campaigns, finding a good way to take something and kind of wrap it up into a nice, tiny little bow at the end of it. But before we get into that topic, I think we should consult the comments to see what sort of banter topic we should indulge ourselves in.
Yeah.
Excellent.
That's a good idea.
Give it to us. Anything you want.
Yeah, people in the chat, give us a banter topic. We'll talk about literally almost anything. Yeah.
Literally almost anything. That was a way to cover your...
There's a little hedge there, but that's right.
Yeah.
We can still work with that.
While we're waiting on the banter topic, I'm going to show off a recent acquired item of mine, this Beholder dice case from Dogmite. I'm going to be doing a review on this very soon, but it's awesome. Holds my dice. You recognize that set of dice there, Barker?
Yes, I do. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Actually, I'm not watching right now, but I know what dice you're holding up. Yeah. I actually, you know what? I found my set. I found my set, man.
I knew you were missing them for a little bit.
So we have twin sets. Oh, my wife just snuck. I don't know if you saw her. She's so sneaky. She snuck in here and dropped me off a steak and enchiladas.
Oh my God.
Nice.
What the hell?
So I'm gonna go ahead and leave really quick. I'm gonna mute and turn my camera off, and you guys will continue the podcast.
Awesome. So what was that? Now is that box? Is it carved or is it?
Yeah, it's carved. It's like
it's a little hard to see on the screen. So.
Yeah, so it's all wood, and I have I think the wood it's called Purple Heart. I think is what it's called. So it has almost like it's hard to see, but it has kind of like a crimson sort of violet color to it a little bit. Oh, and then it looks like it has like maple on the inside here. So
sweet.
Yeah, so they sell these, and you customize it with you choose what each side is going to be. So you could have it be two of the same thing, two different things, and they have a bunch of different designs. And
Juice was just talking about how the magnets are really strong in those cases, and Matt was giving us a showcase.
Yeah, it is. This is going to be a little loud, but I'm going to do it here. Here we go.
Okay.
Oh.
Your hand is bruised.
Yeah. No, I dropped it. Did you see that? It's landed a little bit slanted and then went tunk, just closed up like a mummy's sarcophagus. So anyway, I'm excited about that. So I'm going to be doing a video about that. And they were nice enough to send that to me and hook me up with a pretty cool little dice case. So yeah.
Yeah, you're that review video you did for the Middle Earth.
Mm-hmm.
5th edition.
Yeah.
That was awesome. That convinced me to pick it up. So.
Oh, awesome! That's great, man. Yeah, I've really been enjoying that supplement, and I want to run it like now, like today. I just want to run a Lord of the Rings game.
I don't know if I have people to run in the world, but there's so much in there, like you were saying, that could be good for any world or campaign.
Oh yeah.
There's so much to take from it. And like you said, it wasn't just. It doesn't feel like just they're taking the OGL and just making new stuff for it. It's really a fully fleshed out new way to look at it.
Yeah,
so that I thought that was neat.
Yeah, exactly. It's very good for low magic type settings if you're wanting, because there's non-magical healing and stuff like that. So it's just really cool. So here's a good banter topic from Earl T. Gray, which is Nathan Like. Banter topic. It's a Saturday morning and you've got a bowl full of Captain Crunch. Which cartoon are you watching? I'm going to say, for me, it would probably be Adventure Time. I love Adventure Time, mostly because it's a cartoon that's inspired by the creator's D&D adventures that he used to run when he was a kid. So it has this kind of childlike charm to it, but it still has elements of D&D where there's like liches and things like that in it, and it's just really funny. Yeah,
no, for sure. I if I'm eating Captain Crunch and it's the morning and I'm watching a cartoon, it's because I had an insomnia-driven night, so I didn't sleep, and so I'm watching Rick and Morty, which is what I watch when I don't sleep.
Rick and Morty is great.
Yeah. That show is like a fever dream. So for some reason it works when you're like on the verge, on the cusp of passing out. And you're like, man, this show is like talking to me. It's talking to my spirit.
See, when I was growing up, the only Saturday morning cartoons we only had like 4 channels. We had and one of those was UHF. The other 3 were VHF. And so we were kind of limited on what we could get. But so it was usually like Warner Brothers. Was the Bugs Bunny,
classic,
Roadrunner, yeah. But if I had what I have today and I was doing that, it'd probably be like Avatar: The Last Airbender.
Oh yeah,
still one of my favorites. I can watch that thing a million times and I still love it. So
absolutely,
that's cool.
I never get tired of that.
I like how the answer to that question changes depending on like every 10 years. I want to revisit that. Like, what was it 10 years ago?
Yeah, I know. That was what I was just thinking is like, I answered as if it was me eating Captain Crunch on a Saturday morning today, like now.
Yeah.
But if it was when I was a kid, then it would have been something like Transformers or Beast Wars or Gargoyles or something like that.
See, you're so kick-ass, Matt. You're so kick-ass. Mine would be Blue's Clues.
Game over. Hey, man. Blue's Clues is metal as hell, man. They're like looking for clues and stuff.
I love that.
One of my favorite cartoons that you can't really call it a cartoon nowadays, but it was anime. But it was Robotech.
Oh, I love Robotech.
And now keep in mind that as a kid, I grew up watching a lot of other cartoons, and then I start watching this, and the one I remember that vividly. The one part that really got to me was there was a scene where they end up activating the shield around the ship. They had no idea how the ship worked. For people who don't know, humans discover this alien ship and they activate it, and they really don't know a lot of what it does. So they activate the shield around it when enemy ships start attacking. And what happens is the shield keeps building up this energy, and finally it's going to explode. It's just going to release all this energy outward, and they had like destroying part of a continent, and so it goes out, and some of the pilots are still out there, you know, characters you've met, and their planes just get vaporized. You know, I'm like,
yeah,
did they just die in a cartoon? People are supposed to die in cartoons.
Oh man,
you know? It was just like, wow. That for me at that age, it was just like, holy shit.
Yeah, I love Robotech. I love Robotech. I actually have like the entire series on DVD kicking around here somewhere. There was actually a Robotech video game that came out. This was like 10 or 12 years ago. It was on the Nintendo GameCube, and it was so fun because you could do all 3 transformation modes. So you could do the jet or the half jet where you got the arms coming out of the jet, and you could do full robot, and you could like seamlessly transform between the 3 of them.
Sentinel. That's
Sentinel.
That was what it was called.
Yeah, and it was just so fun because you, like, if you were a jet, you would fly around, and then you could just become a robot, and you could like go in all 3 dimensions, and it was so fun. I love that game.
Yeah, they've talked for ages about a live action version of that, and I don't know if that'll ever really happen. Although I did see the live action version of Star Blazers.
How was that?
Battleship Yamato. It was really good because it was in Japanese, so it's with subtitles, and I mean they nailed the characters. You know, they did a really good job of updating it, but they compressed like the entire, you know, first season into a single movie, which was it was a little truncated, but it was just the way they handled the ship, the way they handled the characters was awesome.
I recently watched. They came out with a. Are you familiar with Space Pirate Harlock?
Oh yeah.
They came out with a Harlock CGI movie, and it was awesome. Good. Like it got kind of mixed reviews, but I watched it the other day, and I was like, "This is badass!" Like the scene. Like all the armor that Harlock's guys are wearing is just so cool. Oh man, I was so into it.
Yeah, and when you see stuff like that, like whether it's, you know, Battleship Yamato, which was the movie one, and even Harlock, it really makes you want to like game in that world.
Oh yeah, totally. And I love the scene in Harlock when they launch a bunch of, I think like missiles at Harlock's ship, and there's like this just cloud of smoke. And then the skull on the front of the ship comes through the smoke, and it has like glowing eyes. Awesome. I was like, "Oh my god, that's so cool!"
And, I mean, it was ripped right out of the anime. They did a great job of you know, realizing that.
And Harlock had his bird and everything. I was just, oh man, I was over the moon about it. Yep, it was awesome. Barker's over there like,
I've lost track of how many drinks people have to take.
Already currently in a stupor. We're not going to get any more questions now.
I love classic anime like that. There was a channel when I was a kid. I cannot remember for the life of me what the channel was, but late at night they would do like classic anime like Harlock, Robotech. They had Irresponsible Captain Tyler, which was amazing. And they played it like late at night, like midnight, 1 a.m. on the weekend, and I would stay up super late and watch all this awesome classic anime.
That should be my new title. The Irresponsible Captain Gothnog.
There you go. Irresponsible Captain Gothnog. I love it.
New title.
So I flopped on the segue last time. And it was so bad that it became a topic in the podcast that was so ingrained into the discussion that I couldn't edit it out.
Yeah.
So would anyone else like a go?
Let's see here.
Well, I was going to bring up how these kind of transition from these animes we're talking about, and especially like Star Blazers and how it ended, because a lot of people don't realize that or people who haven't seen it, I should say, the whole point of it was Earth had been randomly attacked by the Gamelons, and they had pretty much almost wiped it out entirely, and they received this alien message, and they had to go, across the universe to get this machine that would supposedly fix the Earth, and then they had to eventually make it back, and so the whole point was this long arc, and how do you what we're talking about today is basically how you wrap up that kind of long campaign.
Yeah.
Yep.
So that's what I would have done if I had thought of doing a segue.
Well, guess what, Alex? You just did.
What?
I was going to say, Matt,
We're live. You just segued.
Did you know? I was going to say, Matt, what would you have done if you could have done a segue? And then I'm like, man, that's that. When you're asking people that you're all out of banter topic ideas.
Yeah, no, I don't have a segue ready to go either. Alex's was good. We should go with that one.
Yeah, I think so too. Welcome everybody to Roll Up and Die, your just RPG podcast. My name is Barker.
My name is Matt from Fistful of Dice, the channel you're on right now.
That's right. Yep. And my name is Alex, aka Captain Gothnuk.
And yes, today we are talking about ending that campaign. And this is an important discussion for me, not only because I feel like you get into your campaign and you reach a certain point and all of a sudden the campaign starts writing itself. And you kind of see where it's going. And this discussion is, I think, critical because in order to end the campaign, you have to, in a sense, take over a little more control over the campaign. Because you have to kind of put it in that position where it's like, okay, it's over. And yes, the players help, absolutely, but you kind of have to balance that out. Ask yourself, what's the right balance between, controlling the campaign and continuing to let it go because you don't want to take over so much where the players don't have any choice in the matter. But I'm in the process of beginning to close out the Winds of Sir Celine campaign that you and Tim and Cassie and James are in, and it might take a while, but it's been on my mind lately. So what are your experiences with ending a campaign? And I'm going to ask you a more specific question, and you might not have an answer to this one, but the question is, more specifically, have you ever seen a campaign end badly, and what could you do to prevent that?
I've absolutely seen a campaign end badly. It was me and my wife were both in this campaign, and it was this campaign that started out really, really strong. It was a sort of a Viking themed campaign. There was some sort of Norse mythology going on, and one of the characters in the party was sort of this sort of a matriarchal sort of leader within this Viking sort of themed tribe, and we were her advisors. And so we were essentially leading this tribe. And so we were making decisions about where is the tribe going to go. The winter's setting in. We were getting attacked by this strange enemy that we had never seen before. And it was just this really, really awesome campaign where we felt like we had a lot of control and a lot of stake. And at the end, I could tell that the GM had an idea of where the campaign was going to end. And she was very dead set on it ending exactly that way. And so we were trying to do different things. We were coming up with plans to deal with this problem that was coming up. Our town was basically being invaded. And she wanted us to leave the town, and we were not leaving the town. It was one of these things where it was like she was describing to us how the town is getting overrun, it's getting taken over, your people are being killed, and we were refusing to leave. We were like, no, we're going to stay, we're going to fight, we're going to try and hole up here in the throne room and basically fight it out and see how long we can last. And in the most convoluted way, she teleported us away from the throne room. It was like we were trying to, I can't even remember what it was, but it was like we were trapped in this certain area, and she just teleported us out of there. And I don't even remember if there was a good reason or an explanation for how we got teleported away. But it was the most railroady thing I've ever seen done in a campaign, and that was near the end of it. That was like the last or the penultimate session, and it left such a sour taste in my mouth from an otherwise really, really awesome campaign.
Yeah. I have a hard time ending campaigns for that reason. I really don't like to railroad. It's something that just really bugs the hell out of me to be railroaded, but also, to push, the players in a certain way. I was really lucky in my last campaign that that the stars kind of aligned, and it actually did end up ending fairly well, where they not only, rescued their primary city that they operated out of, but they provided this key thing to hopefully bring an end to this war that had been raging for a long time. So it was a good ending. And even better than that, we, over the course of the campaign, I probably mentioned this before on the podcast a million times, but we'd had some players that had to drop out for various reasons, and we had some new players come in and that kind of thing. But I was able to get a lot of the old players to come back for that final episode. So that, we had all these old characters coming in too, who had been there, and so that was kind of neat that they all pitched in and came back, and even doing little cameos just to be there for the final episode, which is I thought was awesome. So I got very lucky with that one.
That is really cool. Yeah, it's always rough when you try running a campaign or you're playing in a game and all of a sudden some words appear in the sky and they say, "We've reached the end of the map. Turn back now or take damage."
Yeah.
Dang it. And that's, how do you guys decide then? How do you decide, okay, how much control do I take? At what point during the campaign do you find yourself guiding the campaign? And at what points do you find yourself kind of letting go? And for the people at home, this is where I usually edit out the silence and I make it sound like we are just like on it with the answers.
That's right.
Boom, boom, boom.
I think for me, like, the beginnings and ends of campaigns are where I sort of have a heavier hand, because there's, like, I have to give the players a little bit of direction. You can't open a campaign with, "What do you guys want to do?" Like, you got to give them some different adventure hooks and sort of guide them in a certain direction. And then the campaign can open up and it can be a lot more free-form, sandboxy. The players are contributing and collaborating a lot. And then once you start to feel the campaign coming to a logical conclusion, you can steer it into port. If it, you can kind of be like, okay, it's time to run this thing to where it needs to go. But that ending will be... it'll be dictated by what the players have done. I might have a vague idea of where the campaign might end. I might have some images or some scenes in my mind. Like with the Provokers, I had this very, very vivid image of the Corruptor with wings, and I wanted him and his Griffin. Yeah, the Griff-Ruptor. I wanted the Corruptor and his Griffin to fuse into one creature, which I thought would be really cool. But other than that, I had no idea how it was going to end. And so, that was dictated by 17 sessions of adventuring and roleplay and stuff like that. That helped me decide where it was going to go. And then once you get into 2-3 sessions before you decide to close it out, you start to get an idea of where this is going to end, because the arcs are starting to close and the end point is starting to become clear. It's starting to come into focus.
Yeah, I think it's easier too if you have a bad guy or a bad whatever that is, that has a plan in play. So it's coming to a head one way or another. Either they will foil this plan, or it'll be a tragedy and they'll all die, or something. It'll end. But it'll end based on this, whatever, this big bad guy or whatever has in play. In the case of one campaign, it was kind of neat because it started, they had found this baby in a jar it was the first game. They had gone to a carnival and they found this baby in a jar. Now in it was supposed to be a homunculus, and so but one of the players just took a shine to it and stole it. And he would carry it around with him. So I started to play on that with this thing started to begin to kind of whisper to him, and he became a warlock, and this was sort of his connection to that, and then in the end I decided that it was going to take him over because it just sort of grew out of this kind of throwaway trinket in a way, but it kind of led to a really cool ending to the campaign.
It's funny how often those like throwaway things become such a big deal because the players fixate on things that you're never really anticipating that they're going to fixate on. Items that you give them, or plot hooks or NPCs that you throw out there just as sort of like, oh, hey, this would be cool. And that's sort of what, like you're saying, Alex, that's sort of what dictates the direction of the campaign, is whatever the players are interested in. And they'll show their interest by fixating on those things.
Well, and like what you said, Matt, the characters might fixate on things that you're not, on the things that don't matter. But, what I'll do is I'll sometimes do a shotgun method where at the beginning of the campaign, I just throw like 3 or 4 plot hooks up there and let the characters decide. And, right. and oftentimes the stuff that you throw out there that they don't grab onto, you can always come back around and make that the important thing that they weren't paying attention to, at the beginning. So I'm a big fan of throwing out a ton of information, seeing what the players grab onto and making that the story. By session 3, here's my piece of advice. It would be to pick the place of the showdown, the location. Say, okay, whatever happens, the final showdown is going to happen at Falhast. No matter what, the final showdown's going to happen in Sonnegeist. No matter what. And then just have that in your mind that, okay, the entire campaign is leading up to this one location. And then after each session, you ask yourself, okay, now is that still the location of the final showdown? Yeah. Yes? Okay, awesome. And slowly evolve what the final showdown looks like based on how the characters get there. You can plan for an ending and run a completely sandbox game and still end where you thought it was. And I think that's perfectly fine,
It also depends on how long you plan on your campaign being. If you're just planning a short campaign of, say, 10 to 20 sessions, then that's going to be very different than just an open-ended campaign where it's just you and your home group. You just start playing with first-level characters, whatever, and you just start running it. You don't know whether it's necessarily going to end up. You might not have this big overarching plot arc or whatever, and so that can be a little harder to come up with that ending. Perhaps, I mean, maybe at the end they end up retiring. Could be, something like that. And if it's not going to be a big, big final battle, which that's a fun way to end a campaign, but they don't necessarily all have to end with this, this great conflict necessarily.
Yeah, for sure. And some people in the chat are talking about a campaign length. What would you define as a good length of a campaign in your mind? And as in how many sessions, not years or anything, but in number of sessions do you want in your campaign? My answer is 3. Trilogies I feel like are the best campaigns. That's the best way to tell a story without getting bored and being able to move on to the next one. I really like 3 sessions.
I think
I was going to say 60 to 80, but
yeah,
that's fine.
Yeah,
I like long campaigns.
Me too. I appreciate one shots and shorter campaigns. But I think it always depends on the players. It depends on the game. It depends on the storyline. Like I ran a Call of Cthulhu campaign that was like between every session, like it was like months or years taking place. The sessions were like, these are important moments in these characters' lives, even though they're doing stuff all the time. And that campaign was like around 10 sessions, because by the time we got to the end, it's like, oh, hey, it's time for these characters to retire. Like they're getting to the end of their, their investigating life. Mm-hmm. So, but with something like The Provokers, that was a little bit longer, almost 20 sessions. But I had a Pathfinder campaign that was close to 30 or 40 sessions with my home group. And like so many things happened in that campaign that I remember for the last session, I had a chart, a piece of paper that was all the loose ends that I still had and lines drawn between everything, basically just trying to wrap everything up. I felt like the writers of Lost, just like, You
gotta explain the 9-tailed cat.
Yeah. Like, guys, we have set ourselves up for the worst written finale here. We gotta
do it. Just put it. It was forget the polar bear. Forget the polar bear. Put a damn zoo on the island. Just put a damn zoo. That's where it came from.
It was all a dream. No, I mean, I thought of a really cool idea. I never got to use it, but I thought of a really neat idea for an ending to a campaign that kind of begins to sort of fizzle out. Like if you know that you're not going to be able to finish a long kind of story arc, what you might be able to do is if you finish a particular adventure, and it's not quite the ending you were looking for, maybe skip, like 10 years, and then have them level up their characters. So now they're these old adventurers who used to adventure together, that are being called out of retirement for one last adventure to go on, and then you make this big epic final adventure for them to do to sort of wrap it up. So you could kind of, if your campaign's really not going anywhere and it's just kind of blurring, go that route, and then and so you can still end up with that sort of big, finale kind of thing.
Yeah, that sounds really good. I like that a lot. And I like to base things off of television shows, and I feel like the reason I'm big on the trilogy is because it's such a natural story arc.
Mm-hmm.
I love trilogies. I love the beginning, the establishment of the characters, the middle, where the evil side strikes again, and then the grand finale type thing is a wonderful archetype for a story. And maybe it's just all the Star Wars that I'm feeling. I bet you that's it. I'm excited for Rogue One. I'm running a Jedi game, not tomorrow, but next Friday. I'm running a Jedi game for my home group, and I'm hoping to record that. But
nice,
my home group, so there are a couple chucklers right there. So maybe I won't.
There's actually a. Oh, go ahead, Barker.
No. Go ahead.
I was just going to say there's actually a good question in the chat that I think would be a good topic for us to talk about, and that is, and you kind of touched on this a little bit, Alex, but is a big battle session the go-to way to an end that will satisfy the players? And, I'm going to say no, not necessarily, because if you think about it, the final session, or at least the last half of a final session, should be the falling action. You have the rising action, the climax, and the falling action.
Yeah.
If you end a campaign on the climax, it's that's very unsatisfying. We don't get to see where the characters go after the campaign is ended or anything like that. And so in the case of something like the Provokers, we had the big battle in the penultimate session. That was the big multiple armies fighting battle.
Yep.
And then the final session was the much more personal battle, where it was just the Provokers and the main villain fighting out in the desert.
Yeah.
And then once that was over, the epilogue was an hour long, and it was just each character got a little scene showing them what are they up to, where are they going, and not tying everything up in a neat little bow, but just giving a sense of where are these characters going. Because I know for me, I fall in love with the characters I play, and I like to have an idea, a headcanon of I wonder where they went and what they did after that campaign ended.
I love epilogues like that. I mean, in the campaign I did with the where they started off at the carnival, after they went through their big final adventure, they came back to their city, and the carnival had returned because it had been over a year. So this carnival had returned, and now they're kind of walking back into their city, and they see a group of four young men excited going off to see the carnival for the first time, just kind of like they were when they first went into it, so it was really kind of cool. They got to see these people who they used to be sort of going into this, and it was just a neat flashback to the first session. So that was a lot of fun. And then
really
they each
cool.
get to talk about what their characters were doing in years later, that kind of thing. 10 years later, that kind of
thing. I love that. I don't know if any of the players or anybody in the audience picked this up, but it was really satisfying for me. The first line of the Provokers campaign was, this adventure, like so many countless others, begins in a tavern. And the last line of the campaign was, this adventure, like so many countless others, ends in a tavern. Because they ended the campaign in the same tavern, sitting around a table. And it was really...
That's some advice.
It was symbolic for me, because they started at the campaign all sitting at separate tables in the tavern, and they ended all sitting around the same table talking about their adventures. And it was oh man, it was so good. I loved it.
Go full circle for sure. I think that really, and this is a huge benefit of being able to run games on Google Hangouts, but also I suggest you record your sessions on a voice recorder or phone or something like that. And the reason is because you can go back and listen to the first session and be like, oh man, I'm gonna bring that back for the finale. Use that as inspiration. But definitely, I agree with both Matt and Alex that a final episode, a final session. I call them episodes because I like to think of them like TV shows. But the last one, like the story doesn't end at the Battle of Pelennor Fields or the Battle of the Black Gate. The story ends, sailing across the sea into the Grey Havens. It ends, when Sam gets back home. It doesn't even end, arguably. So it's one of those things where it's, you want that final session after the climax to really kind of put the story to bed. And a lot of different ways you can do that depend on the character's interaction with the GM during the game. Ask your characters, what is it you want ask your players, what is it you want for this character? Like, what is it you want for this person? Over the course of the game, your players should be slowly but surely moving towards some sort of goal. And that right there is what needs to happen at the finale. And so the only thing I'll say is the only thing I'll say at the end of all that crap I just said is grab a sheet of paper and write a things that need to happen list. There are things that need to happen in the Winds of Sur-Saline before it ends. Things that need to happen in order for the ending to make sense. Something that needs to happen if the winds succeed. Something that needs to happen in my mind is every leaf in the forest needs to fall. That's just this image that I've conveyed. That's a gun that I've hung above the bar. I need to fire that. So make that list of things that need to happen and start, trying to find a way to maneuver the game towards those things.
I think it helps too if the players are good at like good metagaming. In other words, if they know the end is coming too, then they can help you out. If they can tell you're sort of pointing them in a certain direction, they as players can say, yeah, our characters go there, rather than obstinately just saying, nope, stay in here, not going. Screw you. Or something like that. I'm not saying they have to, just go along with whatever plan you have, but if they hear that the bad guy is setting up, in this castle and that he's doing something, they know they have to go there. It's not a big secret. So, it can help if the players are into it as well. And you you can set them up for that at the beginning. You can kind of talk to them about it and say, I'd like, we're doing this X number of session story arc. So, just you're part of this story too. So, kind of help to, you feel free to help kind of direct it.
Yeah, I'm gonna blow Barker's mind here, and I'm gonna make a sports analogy.
Whoa. Oh, mother of Genghis.
So, like a party of D&D players is kind of like a basketball team where you can't anticipate when somebody's going to pass you the ball. You can anticipate, what do I need to do here, right? I can anticipate what the other players are going to do, where the ball's going to be. Like you're saying, Alex, the good metagaming where it's like, if you've played with people for multiple hundreds of hours by the time you're getting to the end of a campaign, those people will naturally be intuitive and be in tune with what you're trying to do as a DM and what the other players are trying to do. And so they'll sense the end coming too, and they'll sense, where do we need to be? What do we need to do to close out this arc and close out this story in like a natural sort of organic way?
And Matt, let me just really quick stop you and say that was really impressive.
Thank you.
I was over here expecting Matt to be like, so imagine a basketball team and they knock down all the pins so they get the touchdown,
and the goalie gets in the way of the puck,
and then the whole crowd goes Yahtzee at the same time.
Exactly. Oh man, I love curling.
Curling is a blast to watch, by the way. That's a banter topic someday. I want to talk about curling. But we've taken some questions from the listeners already. Stranger Things is being talked about. Stranger Things is a really great way, I think, it's a great example of an ending, and I'm not going to spoil anything. But what it does is it alludes to a second season.
Yeah.
Like many other things before it. And that's another thing you can throw into the ending. Just like maybe the villain had a very mischievous sounding laugh, and maybe it ends hearing that laugh echo into eternity because he's not dead because he's a licher. I don't know, something.
Nice.
Curling does rock.
Well, the other thing, the other thing that show kind of helps with a story arc too is that there is a big goal, and it can't end until that goal is complete. Again, I'm trying not to spoil it. So you want to make sure you get to that goal. So
I already got yelled at in the chat for spoiling the end of Return of the King, and I'm like, dude,
oh, come on.
I got a decade rule. Okay, it says if it's been a decade, I can say that
the books have been out for over half a century.
Exactly. That's yielding the books. That's putting the books aside.
I'm like, hey, if he's upset about that, we can't tell him what happens to Julius Caesar. Okay, he's gonna be real pissed when he finds out.
Like he's gonna be he's watching the Titanic. He's watching Titanic. Like turn.
I can't believe they hit the iceberg. I did not see that coming.
By the way, the person in the chat,
should be mocking our listeners.
No, exactly. But I was saying, by the way, the person. No, not at all. I'm not even a little bit. But I actually, when you said that, I was like, oh crap, maybe I shouldn't have. I don't know, but I think Lord of the Rings is a nice exception. Do you think campaigns should end like movies, like TV shows, like songs, or like books?
I think it depends, and I think that you can utilize techniques from all of those things. I think I'm gonna get super English major here, but all forms of art have patterns and they have things that you can do. A song can leave you on an intake of breath just as a book can. There's the I forget the quote, but it's like, leave your readers breathing in, don't let them breathe out, leave them on the intake of breath. And I think that you can do that in a song, you can do it in a book, you can do it in a campaign, where you utilize those techniques. So I think, if you've seen a cool ending in a movie, if you really like the way a certain book ends, then use that in your campaign, use that as inspiration for how you want to end it.
One time I was living in a loft, a really expensive loft with a friend for a month, and I was writing a book, and I was having so much trouble writing this book, and the advice that I was given was to picture the scene, picture an image, and write that image down. Don't write down words, write down what you see inside your head, and I think the same goes for running a game. A lot of my prep time is just spent listening to music and thinking about my characters fighting in slow motion. Where did Alex go? Oh, he's back. Okay.
He got upset that we spoiled Caesar, so he left.
I know. I made a joke and no one laughed. I said he gets promoted to Major Caesar, which is not funny.
That's not funny
because
at all.
His name isn't Julius Bummer.
It's not not a real joke, but an incredible simulation.
An incredible simulation of a joke. So I'm looking through at questions, just gonna maybe pick up a last couple, or we can jump and create an ending of a campaign.
It's weird without Audacity going. I'm having a hard time keeping track of how long we've been doing this, so I don't know where we are.
I got it. We got it. I think we're about 45 minutes.
Yeah, we're 45 minutes into it. We started at 7, pretty much on the dot. So
okay, cool. Why don't we do one more question maybe, and then we'll do the idea, because we have live questions now for a change, so that's kind of neat.
We do.
Right now we're talking about when your characters die. Do you keep the character sheets or do you burn them? And I always burn character sheets of characters that die.
Hell? Yeah, no. Fold them in half. You fold them in half.
I put them in a fireplace and burn them.
And he smokes a pipe. He turns toward the camera.
Yeah.
And then an episode of Murder, She Wrote starts.
No, I smoke a pipe and I sit by the fire and I mumbled to myself, Gandalf style, riddles in the dark.
Yeah, and he's not even smoking it. It's just billowing. He's just like,
yeah, like Matt, what are you doing? My character died.
My character died.
I turned into McCoy there. My character died. Jim.
Damn it, Jim. Yeah, no, I always keep my character sheets. I get attached to them. So
Yeah. Someone here said Viking Burial, and the reason I actually want to touch on this subject is there's a game that I have called Fate of the Norns, and this game is built mechanically around long-running campaigns. If your character dies, you have basically the rest of the characters have a funeral for the character,
Nice.
and they go around and they tell stories about your character's deeds. And the more good stories you have, the better your next character becomes. And that is kind of a pretty strong mechanic for a game. But talk about a cool way to end a campaign. But maybe, people sitting around the fire talking about the good old days, 30 years later, talking about, the old times, and each character takes turns talking about the other character's, accomplishments and stuff like that. I think that would be a cool kind of heartfelt session. I think that's the emotion I'd go for, is heartfelt every time.
See, and I don't want to get across the notion that a character dies and I go bah and throw it into the fire. I make a big show of it. I sometimes
the ashes out of a cannon.
Sometimes I'll sing. I'll be like,
sometimes I'll ask Alexa to sing Happy Birthday.
Yeah, I'll put it into the fire. I had a character in Pathfinder named Krith who died, and it was we made a big deal about it. We put his miniature on the mantle and left offerings next to his miniature so he could take them with him into the afterlife.
Just sounded like he had a lisp.
Yeah.
I'm Chris.
Quith? My name's Quith? That's funny. I had another half-orc character named Sarkum Silversmite that had a lisp.
Silversmite.
Thockum, his name was Thockum Silversmite, and he had a lisp like this. And the funniest part, this is a total tangent, but at one point in the campaign, someone mentioned his lisp. They were like, "Oh, Sarkum, I actually like your lisp," and I went, "I have a lisp? What are you talking about?
Why didn't anyone tell me?
Well, no one ever told me I had a lisp."
Oh,
Son of a bitch.
Oh gosh, that was like your Mike Tyson inspired character.
Right.
Yeah, it was. That was my Mike Tyson inspired character. He was a paladin of, oh man, I'm forgetting his name. Kor. I think it's Kor. It's the Greyhawk deity of athleticism. So he was just a big buff bro paladin that was like always working out. And like during downtime, he'd be like, "Can someone spot me?" And he'd be like lifting like heavy things above his head and stuff. And oh, he was so fun. I loved that character so much.
We apologize to our listeners who may have speech impediments.
Yeah, totally. It's not funny.
No. Now, did that character die? Or did that character see the end of the campaign?
Thockum Silversmite, he lived. We never finished that campaign. It was a campaign that my buddy Chad was running. So he's still alive out there in the D&D universe somewhere, lifting weights and being awesome.
Spotted.
Yeah, getting spotted. Hey man, can you spot me here?
You spot me here?
Roll your spot check. I know, right?
All right. Well, I'm looking at a lot of people are chatting, and there's a lot of great discussion going on in the chat. I'm looking for a question, but I'm not really finding any. Do you guys have one?
Okay.
Am I blind?
Let's see. I'm scrolling up here to look for questions.
Yeah, I'll bet you find some if you scroll up.
Let's see here.
There was a firefight. That was not. That song was not playing in that movie.
No, it wasn't.
Brings me back to my altar boy days.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Tuesday and Wednesday back in Tuesday and Wednesday back in 1978. Those were the days.
That's right.
So here's a good question from Ben B. He is the most prolific roll up and die question asker. I love Ben B.
He's our fake account that we use to ask questions whenever no one else does.
Ben B made me some awesome miniatures back there on my shelf, by the way. He asks, how would you handle all of the PCs dying, like in a heroic tragedy? I ask because my assassin campaign might end soon, and their decisions have led to some dire situations. So how would you handle that? Ending the campaign with a TPK?
I'd inform the players as to what is happening, and I'd let them narrate the whole thing themselves. At least that final scene.
Yeah, that'd be a tough one. I guess yeah, you could maybe have them play, some of the people they left behind talking about them. I don't know. That would be a tough one. I mean,
Yeah.
that'd be a buzzkill right there.
Yeah. I ran a one shot, or it wasn't one shot, it was 2 sessions, like a sword and sorcery game, and this only one of the players survived. Everyone else died. And I ended the session with them in the afterlife. They were standing like among the stars. They were standing in space, and this ferryman came across the starways to carry them into the afterlife, and that's what I ended the session with. So I mean, there's ways to do it when all the characters die.
Yeah. I that's one of the reasons I really like trilogies. It's because and one shots. If a character dies, it's not that big of a deal. They can always. It makes a little more sense to roll another character. Oh, you died in A New Hope. We'll be you'll be Lando Calrissian in the second session of the game. Like, I mean, it just makes a little more sense. If you have a long running game, people tend to get sold like kind of attached to their characters, and I think that a lot of people really go for. A lot of GMs really go for the exact amount of monster experience and stuff that you need. In that case, when a trilogy kind of allows for character death to be a meaningful, emotional plot story element.
Yeah. Chris Wilhelm from Drop Dice left a good comment here. He says, "I would make sure that their deaths have meaning," which I think is really good advice. Making sure that they don't just die in vain.
Yeah, depends on the game. I totally agree with that. But like I know that Chris would agree with me on this. I want to play in a game that's like a Pitch Black, where you play one of the people that are dying, and it's just
man, that would be awesome. Yeah.
And you start with 6 people, and when you die, you click the leave the hangout button.
Yeah, and by the end, it's just a one-on-one session.
Yeah, right.
With the guy playing Riddick.
Yeah, with the guy playing Riddick, and he's like, "Hey, let's make 2 more movies."
Yeah, exactly.
So let's do this final question, and then we'll make a campaign ending. This final question is from Sean M. He asks, favorite ending to a previous campaign? What's the favorite ending you've ever had in a campaign?
The easy answer for me would be Provokers, because that's the most recent, but I'm actually going to go with a different answer. I ran a campaign in this extraplanar city. It was sort of like it was kind of similar to like Sigil in a way, because it was like a city that was out of time, out of space. It was like between things, and there were a bunch of like wayward souls that lived there. And the campaign ended with this really awesome betrayal from this NPC that the characters had gotten super attached to. And at the end, they realized that he had sort of been pulling the strings in the background so that this very particular situation happened. And it was one of these things where they like defeated the main bad guy, and they were like, "All right, we did it." And then this NPC walks in, and he's like, "Good job, everybody." And they're like, "Oh," and it just all sort of dawned on them immediately, because I had put little breadcrumbs everywhere, and like I had masterfully engineered this betrayal where it didn't feel like a gotcha, like it felt like it was a satisfying betrayal, because there were hints of it here and there. And they ended up having to fight him. Like, just immediately they were like, "Oh my god, like we love this guy. He's such an awesome NPC, and now we have to kill him." And that was then the campaign ended shortly after that, but that was like the most satisfying like stunt I've ever pulled off as a dungeon master.
I'd say it's a toss-up from between the two that I mentioned tonight. But I'll go with the one that involved the war, because throughout the entire campaign, the players and characters had grown to fear these the Taknor, who are the invading army, mainly because they were completely resistant to magic, and they had like this sort of anti-magic where they could just destroy magic, and they had, they were just terrifying in a lot of ways. And to show up finally at the end at the siege of their city with the ability now to not only resist them, but to stop them, and to be able to stand up to them in that final battle, and to have these arrogant people who had been just wiping the floor with them regularly to finally be able to stop them. And so that was pretty satisfying. I like that. And of course, like I said, just on a more meta level, having all the a lot of the original players come back, to play in it as well was really rewarding to have this final, this kind of grand finale. So yeah, that was probably my favorite.
That's awesome. I would say mine is probably the Provokers. Not probably. That's my favorite campaign ending. I haven't seen too many, to be fair, but it was definitely a good one. Other than that one, it would be a game that I ended. My favorite campaigns, my favorite games are run with me and two people. I really like two people being the two players. This is a story about two people getting through an adventure. I really love that. It moves really quickly. It works well with trilogies. It works great with Star Wars. It just works excellent with almost everything. And we reached an end of the campaign when the characters realized that the world that they were on was orbiting a post-apocalyptic kind of magical tech like Earth type thing, and they were able to get to the planet. And that was kind of like what's going to happen in season 2, which never showed up. But that ending was kind of cool because it felt like you could sit back and be like, oh, okay, well, that was worth it. That was worth it. Like, all right, cool. Like, I feel like in a game that can't be beaten, I feel like I've finished it. I feel like I've beaten the game because I feel satisfied with who I've role played up to this point, and I'm excited to try someone new.
Now, was it a regular fantasy up until that point? Or
yeah, it was all fantasy up until the very end when one character finds an iPad.
Yeah, that's a serious M. Night Shyamalan sort of twist there at the end.
Oh yeah. Well, it turns out like this was an old world I was working on that was like created by these like 12 wizards upon the Doomsday event that was going to destroy the Earth. So they created a moon in the sky, and it was like out of magic, and it created this fantasy world orbiting the planet. I don't know. It was sounded a lot better inside my head. As most ideas.
They always do, yeah.
But I want to show you something, Matt. You haven't seen it. You've only heard it.
Look at that double D6.
Double
Barker,
six.
I have seen that because I was standing right next to you when you bought it.
You have seen this.
Yeah. You bought it in Tacoma on 6th Avenue at an awesome game store there.
When James was busy buying us X-Wing miniatures.
Yeah, he bought me an E-Wing, man. That was very nice of him.
A TIE, the big one with the 5 barrels.
TIE Punisher.
Punisher.
Yep. That thing's ridiculous. That thing is the like the lifted pickup truck of TIE fighters.
It is. It's like, it's the Monster King. Okay, so I'm going to be 1 to 2. Matt, you're going to be 3 to 4. Gothnog, you're 5 to 6.
Oh, sweet.
Okay, it's a 1. So we are going to create an ending of a campaign. I'm going to say this campaign is going to end in a way that's reminiscent of like a whodunit, like the end of Clue. I like the idea of it ending kind of like an ending of a mystery movie. So that'll be my little 2 cents. Unless we want to go around again, then I'll add to it. Oops. That is a 2, so that will be Matt.
Okay, so we're the ending of like a whodunit.
Yep.
Well, or is it a whodunit kind of ending? Like, is that what, I don't know.
I meant like an ending to a mystery where you discover who the killer was, like a Scooby-Doo ending type.
Gotcha. I think that it should be possible for one of the player characters to unknowingly have been responsible for whatever mystery they're trying to solve. So having something worked out where it's possibly any of the PCs could have been who they've been looking for the entire campaign. And I imagine that this would be a shorter campaign, maybe 2 or 3 sessions.
For sure. We're going to go around again, I think. Okay, Alex.
Okay. So I'm kind of thinking of this kind of like a kind of a Tyler Durden sort of way. So maybe this guy, they find this sort of final clue at the end that's going to tell them who did it. But when he opens it up, it has something in it that he knows it refers to him somehow. It's something unique to him that is that he just can't deny. It's not like, just he opens this, let's say it's a box, and his eyes fall upon it, and he realizes in that moment that it's him.
Yeah. Okay, cool. I like that a lot. Awesome. He realizes in that moment that all of this has been happening inside the heads of 4 different people sitting around a kitchen table rolling dice. And no, that's awesome. And actually, it's funny making this idea you can steal. I feel like we're doing it the wrong way. My first thing was I want it to end like a whodunit, but it's like the game should end the way the game should end. You shouldn't sit here and make the ending. So, we might do this one more time for fun, but this might not be the best way to come up with an ending to a game.
Well, I think it's really it's important to say, like, you can have an idea of where a campaign is going to end, but just be flexible. Like, just be malleable, because depending on which direction the players take, that ending may shift, it may skew, it may be completely different from what you had in mind. So as long as you aren't stubborn about it, it's fine to have an idea of where it's going to end.
See, I think I disagree with you, Barker, because I think every time we do this, something you can steal, we're doing that. We're showing people how to end the campaign in a way, because what we do is we're given something that we have no idea. I have no idea what you're going to say. I have no idea what Matt's going to say. We don't script this out. So, okay. I have to kind of pick this up. It's like, okay, how am I going to end this now? So even though you're just ending the idea, you still sort of have to pick up what in this case, you can kind of think of it as 2 other players left you, and it's like, oh crap, now what am I going to do with it? And you have to think on your feet fast as to how to bring this kind of to a close and make it kind of a unified whole.
Okay, cool.
On a small scale. Anyway.
Let's make another one then, because I would like to make another one if that's okay with you guys.
Yeah.
6. That would be Gothnog. Go first.
Okay, so it's been a long campaign. The adventurers have been trying to track down someone who murdered a king and stole this object of power that the king needs to rule, and all the time it's been gone, the nation has sort of been falling into chaos. The land has no king. What do we do? And so they're desperately trying to get this back, and at the same time track down this killer and determine why he did what he did.
Nice. What was that last bit again? Can you repeat that?
And try to determine why he did what he did.
Okay, cool, awesome. That would be Matt.
I think that the PCs find out that it was carried out by someone very, very close to the king, potentially a son or a daughter, or maybe even a wife was involved in it, and maybe it's even one of those classic, like, oh, it was you type situations where the person that hired them to help is the one that was responsible.
I like that. And I would even approach a player beforehand and say, hey, listen, like, how would you feel about being the bad guy behind everything, in this episode? And 9 times out of 10, one of the players will be like, yeah, let's do that. That sounds great. But even if not, I think I would have the game end during some sort of mass combat. And here's why. Because the battle will take a backseat to the story. So you're going to have all of these things that need to get done. Oh no, we have this traitor in our midst. We have to, kill this NPC or whatever and find him, but there's a battle going on. So how do you do that? A really good example of this being done is in the book, The Black Company. The first one ends with a huge battle, like as big as the Battle of Minas Tirith type of battle. And, but it really doesn't, there's not a lot given to you about the overall battle as a whole, but it's all about the individual people who are doing these tiny little missions during the battle. And I would make that entire session happen during a battle and maybe not even have a single combat roll whatsoever.
Nice. I had a really weird sort of twist that you could do an ending like that too. If I can, since just gonna throw an extra tag on.
Hold on, wait.
Okay.
Yeah, go ahead. You're good.
Okay, so they get to the end and they find this guy and the guy, and maybe the guy has no idea what they're talking about, and he has no object, and then maybe you have a flashback to the night the king died, and maybe he killed himself, and as he died, the object like rolled under a table, so it's been in his chambers the whole time. It's just it was all a strange misunderstanding.
You could go a Big Lebowski with it.
Right, right.
Oh, like, the girl is in on her own kidnapping, and blah, blah. That rug really tied the room together.
that object really tied the kingdom together.
Yeah. All right, everybody. Do either of you have anything to add before we call it quits? I mean, it's up to you, man. It's your channel. You can do whatever you want.
No, I'm gonna end it right now. I'm not even gonna give you a chance to do.
You can be like, now it's a fistful of dice dance hour.
Yeah, we're gonna dance for an hour. Dance for me. No, we're not gonna do that. I'm not gonna say anything else.
Nope.
It's over.
Thank you, everybody, for tuning in to Roll Up and Die, the live edition, episode 58. My name is Barker.
And my name is Matt from A Fistful of Dice.
And my name is Alex, a.k.a. Captain Gothnog.
This has been Roll Up and Die, your definitive RPG pod. I can't remember what everything Barker says at the end. Something about don't steal stuff.
It sucks. Yeah.
Yeah.
You can use this podcast if you'd like, but you should credit us. Something about you can find us at absolutetabletop.com. You can find us at Critical Hit Publishing on Drive-Thru-RPG.
Absolute Tabletop. You have your sexy voice on for it, though, Barker. Like,
hey, everybody.
Roll Up and Die podcast.
It's my Locrius voice.
That's it. Hey, man. Yeah, it's Locrius voice. All right.
Hey,
yeah.
Come a little closer to Roll Up and Die.
All right, I'm going to stop the broadcast before this.
Please, God.
All right, go to fruitrollup.com and download your free fruit roll up.